Hello, I'm Awakens, and this is the Pale Garden, the flagship feature from Minecraft's new winter drop. That will be coming out shortly, and if you want to get any of the features inside of it, you'll need to come to this rare biome. Just how rare is this biome? Well, look at this seed map where you can see there's just one pale forest, and there's over 12,000 blocks in every other direction that you're going to need to travel to find another one of these. In fact, this biome isn't just rare, it's also very small, and then very weird in how it generates, and so today I want to show you 5 different seeds that explain just how bizarre this new biome is, but we'll start with the first one, which is going to have a pale forest at spawn. Very handy for anyone who wants to check this out by themselves, and if that is you, consider subscribing to the channel where you can learn about all the latest in Minecraft news, but also get all sorts of handy tips that will help you out in your Minecraft game. Speaking of your Minecraft game, look at this. You are literally just a few blocks away from a pale forest on this seed, which is a very handy thing to say, and also, notably, it's a very large pale forest, which might be odd to say. If you are used to modern Minecraft biomes, you're used to them spanning entire continents, potentially thousands of blocks sometimes, but this is a large pale forest which covers a distance of about 150 blocks from edge to edge. Why is it the case, therefore, that it's so tiny? And that's because it's a sub-biome of the roof forest, or the dark forest, as you might call it, if you're Minecraft's locate biome, and so as a result of that, it's just worth keeping in mind that this is a small biome because it's constricted by the larger biome it has to exist inside of. In fact, it's quite rare to find a single roof forest, which can be very large by themselves, with more than one of these, but this first seed actually has that covered too, and oh, look at the size of that over there. It's almost the largest one of these I've seen so far. Instead, that honor goes to this seed, which is the largest pale garden I've ever seen, or second largest pale garden at this point, for reasons that will be clear by the end of this video. As you can see, it pushes up right against the mountains there. As you can see, it actually goes into certain parts of the underground, which is very, very interesting, but this is a biome that covers 300 by 300 blocks, and so therefore, when you compare to the other major rare biome that people look forward to seeing, the mushroom biome, which can cover thousands of blocks, let's just say you need to concede, if you like this biome, that it's not the size of the biome that counts, it's how you use it, and indeed, how Mojang is using this biome is what causes all sorts of intrigue about it, because as you'll notice, the moment you step foot in this place, you get a slightly differently coloured sky. Well, as I'm not noticing right now, but as you can see, this is the sky while I'm inside, and this is the sky while I'm outside. It's one of the easiest biomes to tell if you're inside or not, which leads to some fun things when, let's say, it borders a very interesting place, because usually you'll notice it borders other types of forests, but sometimes, in this case, the Pale Garden actually borders a jungle temple, with a weird mischievous baby zombie in there, but this means that you'll get that weird Pale Garden effect even while you're in the jungle temple, which is very, very fun in my opinion that these sorts of things can happen. But yeah, if you're curious as to which biomes the Pale Garden can border, it's the exact same as the roof forest, because the way that Minecraft actually calculates these things is it takes the roof forest, which would have existed before the holiday drop, and then just carves out a small section of them to be this new biome. That way there are no backwards compatibility issues, and that way seeds are exactly the same besides for this new biome. Interestingly enough, this biome is also different between Bedrock and Java. You might have noticed I had to switch over to Java because on Bedrock, jungle temples generate differently, so just keep that in mind as a parity issue. Also keep in mind that there is a parity issue of how many trees you get in this biome. Here's what it's looking like on Java, but on Bedrock it's remarkably more sparse, leading to this huge gap in the trees, which makes it look like there's a gap in the biome, and indeed you can see that even the way that it generates underneath is something that will likely be fixed on this version of the game because of parity for features going after 1.16, etc. Anyway, I think what's also interesting about the fact that this biome looks very small is it can be incredibly small. I showed off one of the largest examples of it, and it was 300 by 300 blocks, but now let me show off perhaps one of the smallest. It's literally one tree. So this is the smallest pale garden that I could find, and as you can see, I think garden is probably pushing it. It's about 7 blocks of moss and 1 tree, but this is how small this biome can be. And while we're here with it, it should be worth mentioning that you probably, actually, I was going to say you could see very clearly just how small this biome was, but while we're looking at this single biome, you can see that this is a direct retexture, or recolor, or indeed replacement of the blocks of an existing tree, because this is the dark oak and this is the pale oak, and obviously this is something you could say is actually intentional. It's a pun. The dark forest the Pale Forest. What a genius one-to-one maneuver they have there. But I do think that this is something which does sort of lower the standards for biomes a little bit. Even the Birch Forest and the Oak Forests, which were the most similar trees when introduced, they're not exact copies of each other, and they later added Tall Birch Forest to the game, right? I think with the Pale Oaks being exactly the same as the Dark Oak, it kind of undermines the value of this new biome a little bit, in a way that I don't think is necessarily Mojang being lazy. They put loads of effort into the new audio detection events. They put loads of effort into new hanging moss and blocks that you find on the ground. However, if the trees look exactly the same otherwise, this is going to be ammunition for the sort of, Mojang be lazy crowd, and that is why I think it's something to keep in mind. There is no new generation of the trees, except for being sparser on Bedrock, but otherwise, there is no new generation for how the trees work. They just have new blocks and new leaves, and I think the leaves are something, but the blocks are definitely also that. Oh, also, it's a brand new biome, which means that blocks will look differently when they generate here, which is why, as you can see, as other leaves generate through here, they start to change their color as they become pale rather than dark, which I think is a cool touch. I also think it's really fun to grow a cherry tree here, because the cherry seems to be basically unaffected by the biome around it, and so as you can see, if you want to add color back to this place, use the cherry grove. And I love that it's a direct contrast to the last tree too, by the way. Very fun little touch. Speaking of fun touches, I said that I'd seen the second largest pale forest ever. Let me show you the first. This last one, by the way, comes from This Is Chris, who you might recognize as friend of the channel, and indeed co-producer on the Ultimate Guide series, since we revamped it recently. But yeah, they have done a lot of seed digging, as I know they like to do, and they have found what I believe is the largest pale garden in existence. If you find a bigger one than this, please do let me know, because this has to occur under a very rare set of circumstances. You need a big roof forest to occur, and then you need the game to decide that a large amount of that roof forest should be converted instead into Pale Garden. This makes it a very, very, very unique world, but as you can see, this being a unique size biome still comes with the caveat that this is probably on the medium size, more honestly, small to medium size of regular Minecraft biomes. If we look around it, you can see that there's a large amount of Mega Tiger over there, but it's about the same for a normal biome. You can see the rest of the roof forest, which attaches to this, is about the same size as it, and indeed, you can see that therefore, even though this is a very large, the largest example of a pale garden in existence, it still has a big cap to it. And so, to recap, here are 5 seeds, one which has a pale garden near spawn, one which has a very, very small pale garden, one which has a very large one, and one which has an even larger one than that, and then one where you can be next to a jungle at the same time. And what I hope that you've learned from seeing all 5 of these is that the pale garden is a biome unlike most others in Minecraft, because this is a system they've been trying to use since the bamboo forest, of trying not to replace the world gen entirely. Basically, in the same vein that people like myself or Chris like to look for seeds, Minecraft don't want to mess with seeds from update to update. It used to be such a pain when you used to have to say, oh yeah, this works with beta 1.7, but only on the Pocket Edition or whatever it was. Nowadays, you can use any Minecraft seed from the post Caves and Cliffs era, and the way that they achieve that is by making slightly odd choices with the generation. And I do think that some of those odd choices could probably be resolved, but they do come at a cost. If they chose to make this biome any bigger, there would be fewer woodland mentions. If they chose to make the generation of the trees slightly different, you could argue that it's not a petrified roof forest, but instead something else altogether. And I do understand that there are lots of development decisions that need to be made here, but hopefully you've learned about what's going on, and if you want to give any feedback, make sure to go to the feedback site for that. As far as my personal feedback, I would just say that I think that this biome definitely needs to be filled with more trees, and that they could probably do with altering the roof forest some amount to reflect the fact that this is a spookier, newer place. And yeah, I would also love to see some other reasons specifically to be here, or to build here, or to kill here. You know, there's all sorts of creaking hearts. What's my benefit for going through this dangerous place? I would love for Mojang to come out with this explanation, and I expect that in this week's beta preview snapshot, or next one, that we might just see that. As far as what I'll be doing during this week's beta preview snapshots, I'll actually be on a plane again. Again, I booked everything during October because I assumed there'd be no major snapshots this time of year, and it turns out I'm missing the holiday one, so if anything happens, you better believe there'll be another plane snapshot preview video, and then that should be the last one for the year, because hello, I'm IBX Toycat, and I don't know how to do outros. Apparently I just say hello again, and hope that that is enough to make you subscribe, or consider checking out a piece of merch, or indeed, the rest of the channel. channel. I hope you enjoyed it, because I'll see you in the next one. Unless your name is, I don't know, Dongwon. Goodbye!